The docking alarms of Outpost K-17 screamed through the metal corridors, echoing off rusted bulkheads and flickering lights. Cargo crews paused. Security officers stiffened. Refugees, human and otherwise, instinctively took a step back. Another alien ship had arrived. Jonah Hale stood near the edge of the bay, wiping grease from his hands with an old cloth. He had been repairing a broken thermal regulator for 12 hours straight, and exhaustion clung to him like a second skin. Still, when the massive transport vessel eased into the hangar, he felt the same tightening in his chest he always did. Outpost K-17 didn't welcome aliens. It tolerated them. The ramp lowered with a hydraulic hiss. A group of armored enforcers marched down first, their boots striking the floor in perfect rhythm. Behind them came merchants, diplomats, and workers, beings of different shapes and colors, all moving quickly, eyes forward, eager to finish their business and leave. Then she appeared. She was alone. Tall and slender, her skin shimmered faintly like moonlit silver, patterned with soft, bioluminescent lines that pulsed slowly along her arms and neck. Her eyes, large and deep, held a quiet intelligence that seemed to absorb the chaos around her. She wore simple robes, torn at the edges, clearly not designed for protection or status. The murmurs began immediately. A Valyrian? Thought their kind ruled half the spiral. What's she doing here alone? Probably fallen from favor. Jonah watched as people turned away. Merchants closed stalls. Refugees shifted to block their children from her view. Even the enforcers glanced at her with unease before deliberately focusing elsewhere. Valyrians were known across the galaxy as aristocrats, rulers, and conquerors. But they were also feared. When one stood alone and unguarded, people didn't see vulnerability, they saw danger or disgrace. The alien woman paused at the base of the ramp. For a moment, she looked as if she expected someone to meet her. No one did. Her shoulders straightened, but Jonah noticed the subtle tremor in her hands. She took a single step forward, then stopped again when a crowd shifted away, forming a clear, empty circle around her. Like she was something contagious. Jonah felt something twist inside him. He didn't know why. He had seen worse things on K-17. Desperation was common currency here. But there was something about the way she stood, head high despite the rejection, that stirred a memory of old stories his mother used to tell him. Tales of fallen queens and wandering stars. Before he could talk himself out of it, Jonah stepped forward. The noise of the bay seemed to dim as he crossed the invisible boundary no one else dared to cross. A few people stared at him like he'd lost his mind. He stopped a respectful distance in front of her and inclined his head slightly. "Welcome to K-17, he said calmly. "You look like you could use a guide." Her eyes widened, not in fear, but surprise. She studied him closely, as if searching for mockery or malice. Finding neither, she responded in careful galactic standard. "Most avoid me," she said. "You do not." Jonah shrugged lightly. "Seems rude to turn away a guest." A faint glow brightened along the markings on her cheeks. "You treat me as if I matter." "You do," Jonah replied simply. For the first time since stepping off her ship, the alien woman smiled. Her name was Serelith of House Valyra. Jonah learned this as they walked through the outpost together. He ignored the stares, the whispers, the subtle threats in the eyes of station officials. He offered her water, then real food from his own limited rations. When she hesitated, clearly unused to such gestures without expectation, he placed the tray in front of her and stepped back. "No charge," he said. "A queen shouldn't be made to beg." She froze. Slowly, Serelith lifted her gaze to him. "You mock me." Jonah shook his head. "No. I mean it." Something ancient and wounded flickered behind her eyes. They found a quiet corner near the observation windows, where dying stars cast long shadows across the station. There, piece by piece, her story emerged. She had once been royalty, not just in name, but in power. Born to rule, trained in diplomacy and war, Serelith had governed an entire Valyrian sector. But when she refused to authorize the destruction of a rebel colony, one that harbored civilians, her own council branded her weak. They stripped her of rank, exiled her, declared her unfit to rule. "Among my people," she said softly, "compassion is considered a flaw." Jonah listened without interrupting. He didn't offer solutions or platitudes. He simply listened, the way no one else ever had. Days passed. Word spread quickly through K-17. A human mechanic was sheltering a Valyrian noble. Some thought Jonah was insane. Others believed he was playing a dangerous game for protection or favor. But Jonah asked for nothing. He gave her his spare quarters, bare, small, but private. He repaired a damaged energy band on her wrist, working with care as if handling something priceless. He greeted her every morning with the same quiet respect, never questioning her past or doubting her worth. Slowly, Serelith changed. The tension in her posture eased. Her voice grew steadier. The light beneath her skin glowed brighter, warmer. She began to speak not only of loss, but of hope, of what she would build if she ever had the chance again. Jonah believed her. That belief would cost him everything. One night, the station went dark. Emergency lights flickered on as armed Valyrian emissaries flooded the corridors. Their armor gleamed obsidian and gold, their presence suffocating. They came for Serelith. Jonah stood in the doorway of his quarters as they approached, weapons humming with lethal energy. "She is property of the Valyrian High Council," the lead emissary declared. "Step aside, human." Jonah didn't move. "She's not property," he said evenly. "She's a person." The emissary laughed coldly. "You dare speak to us of personhood?" Behind Jonah, Serelith placed a hand on his shoulder. "Jonah," she said quietly, "do not die for me." He glanced back at her. "I'm not letting them take you." The emissaries raised their weapons. And then Serelith stepped forward. Her bioluminescent markings flared with blinding brilliance, illuminating the corridor in radiant light. Power, ancient and restrained for far too long, rolled outward, forcing the emissaries back. "I am Serelith of Valyra," she declared, her voice echoing through the station. "You exiled me, but you did not unmake me." Security systems across K-17 came online, responding to her command as if recognizing a rightful ruler. Screens flickered to life, broadcasting her image throughout the outpost. People stopped. Watched. "For cycles, I believed I was alone," she continued. That compassion was weakness. That mercy had no place in rule. Her gaze softened as it fell on Jonah. "A single human showed me otherwise." The emissaries hesitated. They had come expecting a broken exile, not a queen awakened. "I will return," Serelith said, "but not in chains. I will stand before the council, not as a penitent, but as a challenge. And when I do, I will remember who stood with me when everyone else turned away." The emissaries withdrew. Silence followed, then something Jonah had never heard on K-17 before. Applause. Weeks later, Serelith prepared to depart. Her ship was no longer a refugee transport but a restored Valyrian cruiser, its hull gleaming. Representatives from across the outpost came to offer respect, trade, and apologies. Jonah stood at the edge of the hangar, hands in his pockets, unsure what to say. Serelith approached him, dressed now in flowing royal armor that shimmered like starlight. Yet her eyes were the same, warm, steady. "I will reshape my people's future," she said. "But I cannot forget what you gave me." Jonah smiled faintly. "I just treated you the way you deserved." She reached out, placing a small crystalline sigil in his palm. It pulsed gently with energy. "A mark of Valyrian favor," she said. "Call, and I will answer." The ramp began to rise. "Serelith," Jonah called. She turned. "Wherever you rule," he said, "make it kinder than before." She inclined her head, deep, formal. "Because of you," she replied, "it will be." As her ship lifted into the stars, Jonah returned to his workbench, grease and tools waiting as always. But K-17 was no longer the same. And neither was he. Because sometimes, changing the galaxy didn't require power, weapons, or a throne. Sometimes, it only took one man who refused to turn away, and chose instead to treat a broken alien woman like a queen.